So it seems like there's this constant balancing act between producing high yields and conserving water.
It's a delicate balance for sure, and that's where drought research comes in.
Okay. So we need to find those varieties that can produce high yields while using water more efficiently.
Exactly. But to do that, we need the right tools.
Tools that can tell us what's going on inside the plant, how it's responding to drought stress.
Right. Tools that can give us precise real-time insights into the plant's physiology.
Okay, so let's talk about those tools.
Yeah.
The sources mentioned leaf gas exchange measurements as a traditional method.
Yes, that's a classic technique.
What exactly does that involve?
Well, imagine a tiny chamber clamped onto a leaf like a mini laboratory. It measures how much carbon dioxide the plant is taking in for photosynthesis and how much water vapor it's releasing through transpiration.
So it's kind of like monitoring the plant's breathing and sweating.
Yeah, I like that analogy. It captures the essence of the process, but while it provides valuable information, it's very labor-intensive.
Oh, I see.
And you're only looking at a tiny portion of the plant at a single point in time.
So it wouldn't capture those dynamic fluctuations in water use through the day.
Exactly. It's like trying to understand a movie by looking at a single frame.
Right. You're missing the whole story.
Exactly. And then there's stable isotope analysis.
Okay.
This technique uses variations in carbon and oxygen isotopes to reveal how efficiently a plant is using water.
Okay. Interesting. So it tells you something about the plant's water use strategies.
Right. It can give you a lot of insights. But again, it's not a high throughput method.
So it's like piecing together a giant puzzle, one tiny piece at a time.
Precisely. These traditional methods have their place, but they don't paint the full picture, especially when we're trying to understand how plants respond to a constantly changing environment.
Got it. So we need tools that can measure those subtle dynamic changes in a plant's water balance over time.
Exactly.
Tools that can keep up with the plant's day-to-day, even hour-to-hour fluctuations.
That's exactly right. And that's where these more advanced systems come in, like lysimeters.
Now, the sources mention lysimeters as a classic tool for measuring evapotranspiration.
Yeah.
That's the combined water loss from the soil and the plant. But they also highlight some historical challenges with this method.
Right. Well, the biggest hurdle has been distinguishing between changes in soil weight due to water loss and changes due to the plant growing bigger.
Oh, I can see how that would be tricky.
It's like trying to weigh yourself while holding a squirmy puppy.
Yeah, you're not going to get a very accurate reading.
Exactly. And I imagine different plants growing in different environments would further complicate those measurements.
Yeah, for sure. So you need a way to normalize the data to account for those variations in plant size and environmental conditions.
Precisely. And that's where Plant-Ditech's PlantArray system comes in.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. The PlantArray system is described as a gravimetric system, which means it relies on precise weight measurements.
It does.
Can you tell us a bit about how it works?
Sure. Each plant in the PlantArray system is grown in a pot that sits on a super-sensitive scale called a temperature-compensated load cell.
Okay.
And this acts as the lysimeter, continuously monitoring tiny changes in weight.
So the system can detect those subtle changes in weight as the plant takes up water and loses it through transpiration.
Exactly. And it also captures weight gain as the plant grows.
Okay.
But the real magic happens with the software. It's designed to be really user-friendly, so researchers can easily create different irrigation treatments. Think of it like setting up a daily schedule for each plant.
A personalized plant care plan.
Exactly. And you can customize it based on specific conditions. For example, you could program the system to water a plant when it reaches a certain weight or when the soil moisture drops below a certain threshold.
So it's all about setting up these if this then that scenarios for each plant. That sounds incredibly intuitive.
It is, and it takes a lot of the guesswork out of irrigation. Researchers can basically predefine the entire irrigation scenario for their experiment without having to manually adjust things as they go.
Now that's efficiency.
But there's more to it than just weight measurements.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The system also incorporates a suite of sensors in each pot to measure soil, moisture, salinity, and temperature.
Okay.
Plus, it monitors environmental parameters like light humidity and VPD, which stands for vapor pressure deficit.
Hold on, VPD. Can you break that down for me?
Sure, think of VPD as a measure of how thirsty the air is.
Okay.
A high VPD means the air is dry and can pull more moisture from the plant, leading to increased transpiration.
Okay.
It's a key factor influencing how plants manage their water use.
Wow. So it's like the system is creating this incredibly detailed, multidimensional portrait of each plant and its environment.
That's a great way to put it. And all that data is continuously collected and analyzed, giving researchers a real-time view of how each plant is responding to its surroundings.
That's amazing. So we've got these incredibly precise weight measurements, a suite of sensors tracking all sorts of environmental variables, and sophisticated software crunching all that data.
Right?
What kind of insights can we gain from this system?
Yeah. Well, it allows us to calculate a whole range of crucial parameters. Whole plant transpiration biomass gains stominal conductance, which tells us how open or closed the leaf pores are root flux, which is a measure of water movement through the roots, and importantly, whole plant water use efficiency.
That's a lot of data.
Yep.
And I imagine being able to track all of this in real time for hundreds of plants simultaneously would be a game changer for researchers.
Absolutely. It allows for much faster and more precise screening of different plant varieties,
Hmm.
helping us identify those that are most promising for drought tolerance. And remember, those limitations we talked about with traditional methods.
Right.
PlantArray addresses those head on.
We're moving from static snapshots to a high-definition, real-time movie of the plant's life.
Exactly. And that's incredibly powerful. But before we get too carried away, let's step back and look at a specific example of how this technology has been used in drought research.
Okay. You mentioned a case study involving tomato plants, right?
Yes.
That sounds intriguing.
Researchers used the PlantArray system to study drought responses in different tomato varieties, essentially trying to figure out what makes some tomatoes more drought tolerant than others.
And what did they find?
Well, the system was able to clearly differentiate between how the various tomato varieties responded to drought. They observed distinct patterns in transpiration and recovery, allowing them to separate the drought-tolerant plants from the more sensitive ones.
So they could actually see in real time which plants were better at coping with water stress.
Precisely. And they even identified a specific point called the critical theta point, which indicates when a plant starts to react to drought stress.
Oh, that's fascinating. It's like the plant's personal drought alarm signaling when things are getting too dry.
Exactly. And knowing this point for different varieties can be incredibly valuable for breeding programs. It's one of the many insights that PlantArray can reveal insights that wouldn't be possible with traditional methods.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it as enlightening as we did.